my god! Global warming has become global warning, melting the icebergs in the poles. There is less and less Iceland left on the Earth now. Polar bears and penguins are competing fiercely in Arctic Party by fighting for resources and troop recruitment in order to seize Iceland for habitats and protect themselves from disasters. There can be 2 to 6 of you in one game, recommended for 8 years and older players. Each game lasts for about 20 minutes. Let us take a look at the content of the game. There are 10 disaster cards, 33 polar bear cards, 33 penguin cards, and 58 fishery cards. Besides the cards, there are 3 cute penguin and 3 lovely polar bear, totaling 6 player acrylic stands, representing each player at the game. A dice of 12 faces and 6 snow battle shields to cover your cards from being seen by the other players. Now it's time to introduce the cards. Yellow patterned disaster cards show 10 different types of catastrophes resulting from global warming. Each card shows dice rolling condition, defense condition, attack condition, and score. They also show number and color of penguins or polar bears that have to be discarded after challenge. About penguin and polar bear cards. There are 33 of them for each kind, representing the number of recruitable troop members. If you choose penguin as your representative piece, you can only recruit penguin cards as your troop members. At the top of each card, you can find the attack power, points, and defense power of the particular penguin or polar bear card. And it shows how many fish you need to recruit them to your troop. There are 2 kinds of fishery cards. One for fish, which is the fish needed for recruiting troop members mentioned just now. Each card shows the color and number of fish. Rainbow-colored fish can be used as any color. The other kind of fishery cards is equipment cards, each representing different functions, including floating ice, trapped sea turtle, glass bottle, plywood, 6-pack ring, plastic bottle, plastic bag, plastic footwear, trash bag, and straw. Alright, now we are ready to get a game started. 2 to 6 players will play the role of penguins and polar bears respectively. Let's find out how 2 people can play the game now. First, as shown in the screen now, draw out a central area to place different cards that include disaster cards. The number of disaster cards needed equals to the number of players plus 1. For example, when there are 2 players, the number of disaster cards is 2 plus 1, that equals to 3. If there are 3 players, there should be 3 plus 1, 4 disaster cards, and so on. Take out 4 penguin and polar bear cards and put them on each side separately. Put 4 fishery cards in the middle. All the remaining cards can be put aside as card library. Each player picks 1 penguin or polar bear player acrylic stand to represent him or herself. Then, put a snow battle shield of the corresponding color in front of yourself to cover your cards collected during the game. Don't let other players see what you've got. At the beginning, each player puts 2 penguin or polar bear cards with no attributes behind the battle shields as the starter cards. Cards with no attributes are the gray ones with no number of fish at the bottom of them. The game can start when the layout is set. Each player takes turn to randomly pick 3 cards from either the open fishery cards or the card library to be their head cards. The players continue to repeat the above step in order. Each player can hold at most 7 hand cards. Redundant cards must be discarded. After collecting cards, if the players have enough fishery cards of the required number and color, they can start recruiting penguins or polar bears with the fish. Players can pay for greenfish with fishery cards of any colors. For example, if a player wants to recruit this red polar bear card, he or she needs to pay 2 red fish and 2 other fish of any color. Rainbow-colored fish can be used as any fish. Remember that no changes will be given for any fishery card payment. Now, the red polar bear has been recruited as your troop member. Let us find out how we can play Snow Battle Party. When it's a certain player's turn, he or she can challenge one of the other players. The attacker picks 2 troop member cards as warriors. Equipment cards can be added. Put the cards in the central area, face down. There cannot be any addition, subtraction, change of cards, or change of defensive party after the cards are placed. The defender must respond to the challenge by putting down 2 troop member cards plus equipment cards. The attacker and defender then flip over their cards at the same time to calculate the results. The attacker only looks at his or her attack power. Defender only looks at his or her defense power. The warrior with higher score wins. In our case here, both polar bear warriors have defeated their opponents. It means that the polar bear player can pick 2 fishery cards as rewards. It is a draw when the attacker has same attack power as the defender's defense power. Then neither side can get any fishery cards. If each warrior wins a game respectively, each side can get a card from the library as a reward. When the snow battle finishes, players can take back all the challenge cards and put the cards back to behind their shields. There are 10 disaster cards in the game, representing the catastrophes resulting from global warming. They are blizzard, hailstones, El Nino, slush, flash flood, heat wave, marine debris, tornado, drought, and tsunami. If the polar bear player wants to challenge a disaster, then the total attack and defense power of his troops and equipment cards must be greater than or equal to the value displayed on the disaster card. Players can show all their cards by removing their shield and putting their player acrylic stand on the disaster card for the challenge. Players need to roll the dice for the challenge. If the resulting value is greater than the number on the disaster card, the player succeeds the challenge. Then the player can take the disaster card. If the resulting value is smaller than the number on the disaster card, the player fails. Regardless whether the challenge succeeds or fails, the player has to discard the polar bear or penguin cards of the corresponding color and number according to the instructions on the disaster card. How do we decide who wins at the end of the game? It is time to end the game when the last disaster card has been taken by a player and all the players have finished their actions for the round. Each player calculates the total number of ice cubes on their penguin or polar bear cards and on the disaster cards. The player with the most ice cubes is the final winner. Here, polar bear has 16 ice cubes, whereas penguin has only 15. Polar bear wins. If there is a tie, the player with the most disaster cards wins. If there are 4 or 6 players, they can be divided into penguin camp and polar bear camp to fight. One member from each camp takes turn alternatively in a round. At the end of the game, scores of the whole camp are aggregated. The camp with highest score wins. If the two camps gain the same score, the camp with the most disaster cards wins. What a playful and educational game Arctic Party is! Bring your friends with you to experience the challenge from global climate change and take the responsibilities to protect our Earth planet.